LA Kings fans share their appreciation for Anze Kopitar. They talk about the upcoming season and more on this fan feedback edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly YouTube and podcast show that recaps the night in the NHL. We'll get getting underway as soon as the NHL season gets going. 7 days a week, and also a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Before we get into this week's fan feedback show, I do want to correct something I said very quickly from our last show. The LA Kings are not opening up their preseason schedule on Saturday. It is Sunday in Ontario against the Ducks that the Kings are opening up the preseason. You can watch it on lakings.com, and of course, we'll be talking about it on our show on Monday. So the Kings are getting ready to open up the preseason schedule. All right, it is time for you, LA Kings fans, to chime on, talk about your Los Angeles Kings. And of course, we had a couple of people that wanted to chime in on the announcement from Anze Kopitar and that this would be his final season. We'll lead it off with Ruben Guzzi Gabriel in West Covina. He says, "Hey, Eddie, every day you're here. Just wanted to chime in on Kopi's retirement announcement. Like most Kings fans, I will be glued to my TV for Kings games, or I'll be at home to cheer on the GOAT, that is King Kopi. I became a Kings fan shortly after Kopitar was signed by the Kings. Kopitar quickly became my favorite player. My era was the Brownie, Dewey, Quickie, and Kopi era, and had a great time watching the Kings win the Cups. Sad to see King Kopi go, but he will, hands down, be the greatest Kings player of all time. I most definitely think he'll have his own statue and number retired at the crypt. Truly a good person and gentleman. Hopefully this lights a fire even more so into the rest of the team to give it their all to have a deeper, more fulfilling playoff run. With all that said, thank you, King Kopi, for all the great memories and for all you've done for the kingdom. And Eddie, thank you for all your hard work keeping us informed on our Kings. Go Kings, go. Go Rain, go." Now is Ruben in West Covina. Good stuff, Ruben. I think a lot of Kings fans certainly echo exactly what you are saying. I was talking with my wife about this, and we started dating right around the time Kopitar had joined the Kings. And I remember we went to training camp and watched a Kings practice. And I was telling her, this young kid from Slovenia, there's no NHL player that's ever been Slovenia. He's supposed to be really good. And we were watching him, and 20 years later, he's now going to play his final NHL season. It has gone by very quickly. Ed in Brea is usually one of our last emails, but he wanted to talk about Anze Kopitar and wanted to keep the Kopitar emails kind of together. So Ed says, "Congrats to Kopitar for a wonderful career, 20 seasons with one club. Just like Dustin Brown, a rare accomplishment in the salary cap free agency era. On the same day, Clayton Kershaw what made his announcement. With Kopi retiring, I expect Drew Doughty to be the next captain and Ken Holland to be aggressive to get Connor McDavid, since next season we will not have a top center. I think Kopitar decided to call it a career because he saw the Kings needing to sign other prime players. So my hope with this is now that the Kings sign Kempe for $10 million and likely get McDavid for a Kings ransom like the Gretzky trade back in the 80s. History repeating itself with this rivalry. I think Luke got Holland because of success and his ties to McDavid. Also, he looked at other LA teams like the Dodgers that get top talent over them. Kings need to fill a void at top center next season and have more cap space now to do that. Alternative guy could be Jack Eichel. We'll see. As for Kopitar being the best all-around player in Kings history, offense, defense. So to me, the top 5 LA Kings are now number 5, Drew Doughty, number 4, Jonathan Quick, number 3, Luc Robitaille, number 2, Anze Kopitar, and number 1, Marcel Dion. You can freely debate my top 5 if you like. So a trivia question for you will be simple. Anze Kopitar is one of 4 Kings players to have more than 1,000 points as a King He is 29 points away from Marcel Dion for tying the all-time mark. Who are the other two Kings that have over 1,000 points in Kings history? Keep up the good work and enjoy Kopitar's final season, since his number will be joining Deshaun, Dion, Taylor, Gretzky, Robitaille, Blake, and Brown. And he'll be elected into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Go Kings, go. And that was Ed in Brea. So first you said Kopitar was one of 4 Kings that had more than 1,000 points. Then you asked who are the other 2 Kings. So unless you're saying you're just giving it away that Marcel Dion is one of them. It is Luc Robitaille and Dave Taylor also have 1,000 points in Kings history. I never saw Marcel Dion, so I freely admit, and I know you didn't either, Ed, because you're younger than I am, but I freely admit that that's a bit of a blind spot. His stats and everything I've heard talk about what an amazing player he was, but he wasn't drafted by the Kings. And I don't think he finished his career with the Kings. I think he was traded late in his career. And I think then again, that matters to me. And so I think it's Anze Kopitar, not Marcel Dion, but he certainly is great. I see all the McDavid stuff. You guys will not let that go. And that's fine. And I will freely admit there is some circumstantial evidence about it being a possibility. And I know, as Ed alluded to, once upon a time it happened with Wayne Gretzky. Does lightning strike twice? I don't know. It's a different situation, obviously. But, the McDavid comments about him really liking LA as a place to vacation was interesting. And what he's doing, I find very interesting. And it seems like there are people that are smarter than me, frankly, that are convinced he's going to re-sign with the Oilers. And I just keep thinking, they may be right, but why not just do it? The guy literally holds all the cards. He can name his price. He can name the number of years. What's the wait? The Oilers will give him literally anything he wants. So I don't understand he's like, oh, we're going to take our time. We're going to be slow about it. Why? Unless he's greasing, the rails for him to get out of town and doesn't want it to be, a complete shock. I really don't get it. So I am open to the possibility that he's going to go somewhere else. I would be shocked if it was LA, though. I know he said he likes it here. That's great. I'm pleased to hear it. But are the Kings better off than the Oilers as far as being a Stanley Cup contender? I don't think so. And if he does come to LA, unless he's a complete free agent afterwards and there's no trade involved, then I would be very shocked by that. As far as I know, Connor McDavid and Ken Holland only had a working relationship. I've never heard anyone say Connor McDavid loves Ken Holland. I've never even heard Ken Holland say he loves Connor McDavid. Now I know there's no GM in the league that wouldn't love to have that guy on their team. But like I said, I've never heard that there's some kind of special relationship between those two guys that makes a reunion in LA a possibility. But we'll see. We'll see. A lot of people will not let that go. Jesse in Eagle Rock checks in. He says, love the show. You do a great job entertaining us in the off season. Thank you, Jesse. I think we have our best lineup since 2014 with 12 forwards who can compete with anyone in the league. What we lack is star power. We make up for it, though, in depth and our strong defensive system. On the other hand, most fans seem to agree that we're missing a little quality on D. We have some bright spots. Drew with another strong year or two left in him. Clark has star potential. Everyone loves Mikey and Big Joel. I also think Dumoulin is an underrated signing. He reminds me of Scuderia in a lot of ways. Do you see any realistic way for us to improve at the blue line? Seems to me like the only hope is for Clark to have a breakout year and fill Gavrikhov's shoes, and for CC to surprise us all. Can't wait to get back to King's Landing for the new season. I see what you did there. That was Jesse in Eagle Rock. I do agree. There's no superstar players on this roster, but a lot of good, solid players and a few really good players. But I think you hit it. I don't see the Kings doing anything or making any moves to improve themselves defensively. I think the players that they've got are the players they're going to go with, unless there are injuries. That is always a factor. But I don't see them looking to upgrade during the season. I would be surprised by that. And as you said, I think the one place where they could potentially take a step forward where, for above from where they are now is, as you said, if Brant Clark can take a step forward this year, I would love to see that. All right, we have questions about how short is the leash on head coach Jim Hiller, and also a scandal involving a former LA King. We'll touch on that next here on Locked In LA Kings, your team every day. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, we continue with the emails, and we go to Steve in Boston. He says, hope all is well. The leaves are starting to change here in Boston, and I'm reminded once again how the only way to tell that fall has arrived in Southern California is when Starbucks has the pumpkin spice in their store. Ha! Oh, my wife loves the pumpkin spice. My question for this week's fan feedback show, with the roster changes, the harsh feedback on Hiller's playoff performance, and Hiller potentially being on a tight leash, added forward depth and concerns about the blue line, Perry's injury, and more concerns about he says, what targets would you set for the Kings' first 20 that would show Holland's offseason moves are working? Again, curious to hear what your benchmark would be and what you would need to see from the team to approve of Ken's stewardship of the club. Thanks for all you do for the Kings expats across the country. You continue to be a rock star. All the best, Steve in Boston. Thank you, Steve. I do appreciate that. Probably not deserved, but I do appreciate that. I would say if you're looking at how many games to look at before we start to be concerned, if you will, to me, it's always been, and I'm not the one who brought this up, but people have told me, and they're right, around the 25 game mark, around American Thanksgiving, you look and see where your team is and make a decision on what needs to change, if anything, if there's a coaching change, something along those lines. If the Kings start off very, very slow, if they are not a playoff team at around the 25 game mark, I could see them making a change. As far as like what their record would need to be to know whether the offseason moves are working or not, I don't know that I have that honestly in mind. The Kings could be the last playoff team in the Western Conference. And if they win their first round playoff series, that's all we need to know if Ken Holland's moves worked or not. I don't think what they do in the regular season, unless it's a disaster, has a whole lot of bearing on it. It's all about the playoffs. This team has been built for the playoffs. Veteran players who have had a lot of postseason experience, getting bigger and stronger, which seems to be the formula. If you look at what the Florida Panthers have done over the last couple of years as back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. So I understand the question. And again, if it's a disaster for the first 20, 25 games, I could see a coaching change. But honestly, let's say they're in third place in the Pacific, maybe kind of hovering around a wild card spot. I don't think that tells us what we need to know. Like I said, Ken Holland and this roster will be judged by what they do in the playoffs. And conversely, if they get off to an amazing start and they're kicking ass, I still don't think it matters. It only thing that matters for this Kings team, based on what they have done recently and how they've never won a first round series since they won the cup in 2014, it is all about the playoffs. I'm not suggesting the regular season is worthless. I'm not suggesting the regular season doesn't matter. It does. And you want to see these guys gel together. You want to see them playing a certain way. But like I said, ultimately, if you're going to ask, is Ken Holland as GM and the moves he made a success or a failure? To me, it's all about playoff success, nothing else. Scott in Simi Valley checks in. He says, you could be right. Maybe the Kings are better with Ken Holland's changes, especially up front. But Holland wasted a lot of cap dollars on older, slower players and gave some of them too much term. If the Kings are better now, those contracts will cost them in a couple of years. We can spin Holland's moves any way you want, but even if the Kings advance, it'll be despite his management and not because of it. Luke didn't interview many GM candidates, maybe no one except Holland, and Holland isn't exactly burning the midnight oil to get the Kings over the hump. You can look at Holland's comments about signing Kempe, for example. It's been the same old double talk about getting started on that right away for several months now. It sounds bad because it is bad, though I do expect Juice to sign before Christmas. Talk is just talk. There's little urgency to win a cup from Luke or Holland. Both are really nice people who should be involved in the game in other capacities, but in my humble opinion, they should not be running an NHL team. And that is Scott in Simi Valley. And I chuckle a little bit, Scott, because I agree with you that some of the money that Ken Holland has put out there and some of the term is not what I would have done. But I would say, look, if it works and they have playoff success, I don't know how you can't give him credit for that. You said if they advance, it'll be despite his management, not because of it. How is that fair? I mean, that's totally unfair. If they advance out of the playoffs and these guys come in and, it's the depth and it's experience, I don't know how you can't give them any credit for that. If the Kings pay for this in a few years, maybe with, the contracts, the guys like Cody Ceci, I don't think those contracts are, look, they're overpayments, but they're not crippling contracts. This is not, they're not paying him $8, $9, $10 million a year. I mean, 4.5 is too much for a third pairing defenseman, but it's still $4.5 million. It's not, it's not money that's going to cripple you or prevent you from going out and getting a really good player, I don't think. And as far as the Kempe thing, look, I've been very much on record of saying if I was the GM, it would be done by now. But as long as Adrian Kempe is saying there's no hurry, I'm not going to panic about it. And if the player is telling me as a GM there's no hurry, then I guess there's no hurry. So, I mean, you said yourself you think he's going to sign before Christmas. So if that happens, then all good. So I get your concerns, and I'm not saying a couple of your points aren't valid, but I don't know. It's like you've already made up your mind on how this is going to turn out. And like I said, if they have playoff success, then it's a success. And I will give Ken Holland credit if that happens. Andy in Guelph checks in. He says, Hockey Forever on Instagram reported the following story. Arthur Kaliev's ex-girlfriend, Lauren Muchin, shared a 32-part series on TikTok accusing Kaliev of financial manipulation, emotional abuse, and scamming her out of nearly $50,000. She alleges Kaliev fabricated a story that his family was stealing his money when in reality he was gambling it all away, leaving her to cover the bills. If true, then might have contributed to his lack of development on the ice. And that was Andy in Guelph. Wow, we're going TMZ here on Arthur Kaliev. I have not heard this story. I did. Andy included some links. I clicked on it, and he's not making it up. This woman is accusing Arthur Kaliev of this. I have no idea if it's true or not. A 32-part series on TikTok. Wow, that's a lot. There was a story about Arthur Kaliev. I have no idea if it's true or not. But if you're familiar with baseball and like Latin American players and how they would lie about their age so that they could get a better contract, right? If you're younger, if you say you're, 17 you're going to get a better contract than if you say you're 21. And those guys would lie about their age and they would falsify birth certificates. There was a story that Arthur Kaliyev did that he's actually older than his listed age. I have no idea if that's true, but that was a story that was out there. And that's not something you hear very often about hockey players. So does that relate to this story in any way? I don't know. If that was true, maybe he's a guy who is not afraid of being dishonest about things. But I never heard when Arthur Kaliyev was with the Kings, he was a bad teammate or anything like that. There was an amusing story I heard I will not share about a kind of a locker room confrontation with him. Not over anything like off the ice. It was all hockey related, but I don't know. I have no idea if this woman's claims are true. It is. I will say it's very rare that you hear about a guy kind of stealing money from his girlfriend who's a professional athlete. Usually it's like the girlfriend or the wife that's scamming the professional athlete out of the money. So that's an interesting twist on this. But no, I don't know anything about this Arthur Kaliyev story. So if something comes out about it, we'll see. I will say Arthur Kaliyev has so far turned out to be kind of what we thought. Kind of a marginal NHL player. He's now on his third team in less than 2 years. He's in Ottawa now, and I don't think he's expected to be in their lineup. So that was a miss for the Kings as far as a draft pick, but as far as their decision to cut bait with him, it didn't work out with the Rangers, and we'll see if it works out with Ottawa or not. All right, we have a rain report coming up that I hope you'll be interested in. We will look at that and read that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Our next email comes from Mike. He is in Yucaipa, and he says, first off, thank you for all the amazing content. Thank you, Mike. I'm super excited about the start of the season. Heading out to the Inland Empire Classic this Sunday with friends and family to see our Kings square off against the Ducks. All right. Very cool. I wanted to respond to your latest fan email Friday from a Rialto fans, from the Rialto fans, Bill and Desi. I have started a Kings watch party at Hops and Spokes Brewing Company in Yucaipa, not far from Rialto, once a month. I've attached the 3 fall dates and games on the social media post flyer below. Also, I believe Yamava Casino Highlands is a Kings watch party location. I'd love to see as many Kings fans out at this local brewery to support our team. Thank you for all you do. Go Kings go. And that was Mike in Yucaipa. Yeah, we had the email last week from Billy and Desi asking about areas that Kings fans can go watch. There was some response to this on social media. Scott Burnside, the Hall of Fame writer, actually sent me an instant message, and he said, go to Old Town Patio in Old El Segundo. That's where they said they're hockey fans, and they have hockey watch parties there. Kyle on X suggested the Cask and Cleaver in Upland, says they have Kings watch parties there. Crystal asked, how about the bar at the Toyota Sports Performance Center? Which I thought, gosh, that would make a lot of sense that, you could go have a watch party. I would assume that bar there, and they have TVs, would show all the Kings games, I got to think. And Leanne said the Torrance Tavern Sauce and Standard Station in El Segundo, or maybe those are 2 locations, the Torrance Tavern or Sauced and Standard Station in El Segundo. So a couple of El Segundo locations there. If you guys have any other places for a watch party, let me know. I think we will have a Locked On LA Kings watch party for the game on the first Saturday of the regular season, and that's the game for the Kings in Winnipeg. That is, I believe, October 11th, I want to say. Yes, October 11th. It's an early game. I think it's like 10 or 11. So I don't know if that would hurt attendance or not, but it would make it certainly easy for people to kind of come watch the Kings and then have the rest of their day to do what they want. So I'm just planting a seed. I don't know where it will be, but I think we may have a Locked on LA Kings watch party somewhere in the South Bay area because that's where I live. I apologize. I'm not going to drive several hours away to go to a watch party. I don't think. We'll see. Maybe, at least for this. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And it would likely be Saturday, October the 11th, when the Kings play in Winnipeg against the Jets. And that's an early game. It's like 10 or 11 a.m. So we'll see if we can find a place and work that out. All right. Our final email comes from Don in the San Fernando Valley. He has a rain report, his first preseason report. And this is all about the top tier prospects, the Ontario Reign this season. They are Eric Portillo, Angus Booth, Kirill Kirisanov, and Cohen Zemer. He starts with Eric Portillo. He says, Eric is the biggest question mark at this time among our prospects due to the ongoing injury situation. Eric's in his third year of the AHL. He has been a solid and steady improving player over that time. Kings fans should remember last November 29th when he won his NHL debut, stopping 29 of 30 shots to beat the Ducks 2-1 in his only NHL game. It was a fun game. Eric looked very good. Unfortunately, with about 2 months to go in the season, he was injured and didn't return. In late June or early July, the team finally disclosed that he suffered a back injury, and there was the possibility that he had surgery. The team made no announcement regarding Eric since then, that I'm aware of. Hopefully, Eric can regain his full health and resume his march towards the NHL. I hope to get a report on him a lot this year. I'm sure that we're all pulling for him. And to update, if you missed it, Don and anyone else, Eric Portillo was a full participant at the opening of training camp. So that is very good news. He's back on the ice and looks to be ready to go for the start of the season. Not the case, though, for possibly Angus Booth, who's the next player that Don's talking about. He says the surprise prospect of last season. He made the jump straight from Canadian Major Junior at age 20 to play middle pair minutes in the AHL. Nearly all the time he played, he was not used on the third pair. He played considerably smack dab in the middle pair, displaying efficiency, calmness, and outstanding defensive hockey sense. With more growth in his game and physique, he could possibly make the first pair this season. He's 6'1", and weight-wise about 190. If he can do diligent off-season workouts in the gym and add muscle over the next year or two and reach 205 pounds or thereabouts, which would match Matt Roy's size exactly in his first year with the Kings. Not huge, but big enough. Booth skating is fine, but nothing special that I have seen. He's got the necessary agility and quickness to cover most AHL forwards well, but has never displayed great speed or explosive acceleration to my eye. Offensively, he's able to jump in at times and contribute with a quick pass or shot, but he's not a power play quarterback type at all. He'll give some degree of help offensively to his game, but it is likely to never be a big point getter. Booth has 2 years of AHL action ahead of him without waivers, which is plenty of time to grow and learn. No need to rush him. I see him as a kind of left side version of Matt Roy, but still acquiring elements of his physical game as he matures. He's got the instincts of a true shutdown D-man, in my opinion. He just needs to keep learning and growing. Booth was injured for the last 6 weeks or so of last season, but he did return for the last couple of games and looked to be totally recovered physically and skating just fine. Well, unfortunately, you may have heard me report the other day that Angus Booth was injured in training camp, looked like a fairly severe knee injury. I still have not heard an update on that, but I would be surprised if he didn't miss the start of the season, but we shall see. Up next, Don talks about Kirill Kirisanov. I've been mispronouncing his name, so I got to make sure I get that right. Kirill Kirisanov. Oh boy. 6'2", 220. This guy has a powerful physique and the sheer brute strength you love to see in a D-man. Clearing the crease, boxing guys out, muscling people off the puck, blocking shots are all right in his wheelhouse. Just don't look for much offense. He's never been much of a point getter. In Russia, strictly single-digit point totals. Skating is solid medium with stability, lots of power in his stride, but not great speed that I've seen. He's played against adults in the KHL, a league similar to quality of the AHL since he was 18. He's now 22 and will turn 23 in December. So the physical maturity and experience playing against grown-up pro players is there. The one big question is his stick work and puck movement. This is what I would be watching closely for. What does he do with the puck when he has it on his stick in his own zone? Can he clear the puck through small openings? How does he use his teammates in these moments? Does he panic or stay calm when pressured? If he can develop his game to a point where he can clear the puck and get it moving out of the zone with consistency, quickness, and efficiency under pressure, he'll likely make it to the show. And finally, Cohen Ziemer is 6'1", 203. That's last year's weight, by the way, and he's still growing at age 20. Ziemer has a strong frame to play pro-style physical hockey, plus he sports a fine set of hands and shooting, passing, and puck handling. His skating is the weakest part of his game, but he has surely been working on it as well as gaining strength in the gym this summer. Defensively reflected from what I saw in junior highlights, his plus-minus seems to be just okay. Not bad, but with considerably more improvement needed to play at the pro level, since he projects as a middle six, two-way forward. He will especially need to be able to play two-way hockey to fit in with the Kings system. Luckily, his strong and still developing physique should help him in becoming a solid physical checker when he needs to be. Ziemer can put the biscuit in the basket, as the old saying goes. He's a shoot first, shoot second, pass third kind of player. When he does pass, he can make a nice play, but his preference is to shoot, and he is a right shot, which the Kings need more of. If Liam Greentree isn't allowed to play in the AHL this season, Ziemer will almost certainly be our best offensive forward prospect this year. Hopefully, he'll work towards being an all-around forward. Next report will be our second-tier prospects, and that was a very thorough rain report from Don in the San Fernando Valley. And Don, we look forward to your rain reports each and every week. Thank you for those. And thank you to everyone who took the time to email this week. The show is literally not possible without your participation. If you would like to email the show for any reason, including next week's fan feedback show, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. If you're watching on YouTube, we welcome your comments in the comment section. And please stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. And if you want some extra Kings coverage, send an email to lakingsextra@gmail.com, and we'll give you all the information on that. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.